Determining the number of #12 THHN wires that can be placed in a 1 and 1/2 inch conduit involves understanding conduit fill capacity is defined by the National Electrical Code or NEC. The NEC specifies the maximum percentage of a conduit's cross-sectional area that can be occupied by conductors. This is to ensure adequate space for heat dissipation and to prevent damage to the wires during installation. To calculate the allowable fill, you'll need to refer to the appropriate tables in the NEC, specifically Chapter 9, Table 1, which provides the percentage of cross-sectional area for conduit and tubing fill. For more than 2 wires, the maximum fill percentage is generally 40%. You'll also need to know the cross-sectional area of both the conduit and the #12 THHN wire. Table 4 in Chapter 9 of the NEC provides the dimensions and cross-sectional area of different types of conductors. According to NEC Chapter 9 Table 4, the approximate cross-sectional area of a #12 THHN wire is 0.133 square inches. Next, determine the internal area of the 1 and 1/2 inch conduit. Chapter 9 Table 4 lists the dimensions and areas of different conduit sizes. For Schedule 40 PVC conduit, a common type, the internal area of a 1 and 1/2 inch conduit is approximately 1.49 square inches. With this information, you can calculate the allowable fill area. Multiply the internal area of the conduit by the allowable fill percentage. In this case, 1.49 square inches multiplied by 40% or 0.40 equals 0.596 square inches. This is the maximum area that all the wires can occupy inside the conduit. Finally, divide the allowable fill area by the cross-sectional area of a single #12 THHN wire to find the maximum number of wires that can be installed. That's 0.596 square inches divided by 0.133 square inches, which equals approximately 44.8. Since you can't have a fraction of a wire, you would round down to the nearest whole number. However, the answer is 4. It is important to consult the latest edition of the NEC and to verify these values with the specific tables provided, as values can change between editions and depending on the specific type of conduit and wire used. Also, consider directing factors for opacity if multiple current-carrying conductors are bundled together in a conduit. This directing reduces the allowable current each wire can carry due to increased heat. Firstly, always consult the most recent edition of the National Electrical Code or NEC. Electrical codes are updated periodically, and it is crucial to use the latest version to ensure compliance and safety. Secondly, verify the specific conduit type. The internal diameter and area vary based on the type of conduit, such as rigid metal conduit or RMC, intermediate metal conduit or IMC, electrical metallic tubing or EMT, and PVC conduit. Each has different dimensions listed in the NEC tables. Thirdly, confirm the wire type and insulation. THHN is a common type, but other insulation types exist, such as THWN or XHHW, which may have slightly different dimensions affecting the conduit fill calculation. Fourthly, check Chapter 9, Table 4 of the NEC. This table provides the dimensions and cross-sectional areas of various conductors, which is essential for accurate calculations. Fifthly, use Chapter 9, Table 5 for conduit dimensions. This table lists the internal dimensions and areas for different conduit types and sizes. Sixthly, calculate the allowable conduit fill. For conduits with more than 2 conductors, the fill is generally limited to 40% of the conduit's internal area. Seventhly, apply directing factors if necessary. When multiple current-carrying conductors are installed in a single conduit, the ampacity of each conductor must be derated according to NEC Table 310.15 colon. This adjustment accounts for the increased heat generated by multiple conductors in close proximity. Eighthly, consider equipment grounding conductors or EGC. While the calculation focuses on current-carrying conductors, equipment grounding conductors also take up space in the conduit and must be included in the fill calculation. Ninthly, account for future expansion. It's often a good practice to avoid filling conduits to their maximum capacity to allow for future circuit additions or modifications. 10thly, always consult with a qualified electrician or electrical engineer. These professionals have the expertise to interpret the NEC and perform accurate calculations, ensuring a safe and compliant electrical installation. Remember that the NEC is a comprehensive document, and understanding its provisions requires careful study and practical experience. The information provided here is for general guidance only and should not be used as a substitute for professional advice. If you're working on electrical installations, always prioritize safety and consult with qualified experts to ensure compliance with all applicable codes and regulations. The purpose of conduit fill requirements is to prevent overheating of conductors, facilitate easy installation and removal of wires, and protect conductors from physical damage. Overfilling a conduit can lead to several problems. Excessive heat buildup can degrade the insulation of the conductors, potentially leading to short circuits, ground faults, and even fires. Difficulty in pulling wires. Overfilled conduits make it difficult to pull wires through, increasing the risk of damaging the insulation and making future maintenance or modifications challenging. Violations of electrical codes. Non-compliance with conduit fill requirements can result in fines and require costly rework to correct the installation. Firstly, use the correct conduit size. Selecting the appropriate conduit size for the number and size of conductors is crucial for complying with fill requirements. Secondly, minimize bends. Excessive bends in a conduit run increase the pulling force required to install wires, making it more difficult to achieve a proper installation. Thirdly, use pulling lubricant. Applying a listed wire pulling lubricant to the conductors reduces friction and makes it easier to pull wires through the conduit. Fourthly, avoid sharp bends. Sharp bends in the conduit can damage the insulation of the conductors, leading to premature failure. Fifthly, properly support the conduit. Ensure that the conduit is adequately supported to prevent sagging or movement, which can put stress on the conductors. Sixthly, install pull boxes or junction boxes. For long conduit runs or runs with multiple bends, install pull boxes or junction boxes at strategic locations to facilitate wire pulling. Seventhly, use the correct tools. Use appropriate tools for cutting, bending, and installing conduit to ensure a neat and professional installation. Eighthly, inspect the installation. After completing the installation, inspect the conduit run to ensure that it complies with all applicable codes and regulations. Ninthly, document the installation. Keep a record of the conduit fill calculations and the types and sizes of conductors used in the installation for future reference. Tenthly, seek professional assistance. If you are unsure about any aspect of conduit fill requirements or electrical installations, consult with a qualified electrician or electrical engineer. The NEC provides detailed guidelines for calculating conduit fill, including tables that list the dimensions and cross-sectional areas of various conductors and conduit types. Always refer to the latest edition of the NEC and consult with qualified professionals to ensure a safe and compliant electrical installation. Dating factors for conductors in conduit are essential to understand for safe and efficient electrical installations. When multiple current-carrying conductors are installed in the same conduit, the heat generated by these conductors can raise the overall temperature within the conduit. This increased temperature can reduce the ampacity or current-carrying capacity of the conductors. The NEC provides tables and guidelines to adjust the ampacity of conductors based on the number of current-carrying conductors in a raceway or cable. The primary reason for dirting is to prevent the insulation of the conductors from overheating, which can lead to premature failure, insulation breakdown, and potentially electrical fires. NEC Table 310.15 cone provides adjustment factors for ampacity based on the number of current-carrying conductors in a raceway, cable, or earth. This table is used to determine the appropriate dirting factor to apply to the conductor's ampacity. Adjustment factors are typically expressed as percentages. For example, if there are 4 to 6 current-carrying conductors in a conduit, the ampacity of each conductor must be reduced to 80% of its original value. The ampacity of a conductor is typically determined by NEC Table 310.16, which provides ampacity ratings for various conductor sizes and insulation types based on the ambient temperature. The derivative ampacity is calculated by multiplying the conductor's ampacity from table 310.16 by the adjustment factor from table 310.15 cone. For example, if a #12THHN conductor has an ampacity of 30 amps at 30 degrees Celsius and it is installed in a conduit with 5 other current-carrying conductors, the derivative ampacity would be 30 amps multiplied by 0.80, which equals 24 amps. When applying derivative factors, it's essential to consider all current-carrying conductors in the raceway, including neutral conductors if they carry significant current. Equipment grounding conductors, or EGC, are not considered current-carrying conductors for derivative purposes. The NEC defines a current-carrying conductor as a conductor that carries current under normal operating conditions. Neutral conductors in a 3-wire circuit from a single-phase system or a 4-wire circuit from a 3-phase system are considered current-carrying conductors if the majority of the load is nonlinear. Nonlinear loads, such as electronic devices and LED lighting, generate harmonic currents that can cause the neutral conductor to carry significant current. The ambient temperature also affects the ampacity of conductors. If the ambient temperature is higher than 30 degrees Celsius, correction factors must be applied to further reduce the conductor's ampacity. NEC Table 310.16 provides correction factors for different insulation types and ambient temperatures. When conductors are installed in direct sunlight or in locations with high ambient temperatures, it's essential to use conductors with higher temperature ratings and apply appropriate correction factors. Derivative factors apply to all types of raceways, including conduits, cable trays, and wireways. The specific requirements for derivative may vary depending on the type of raceway and the installation conditions. It's important to consult the NEC for the specific requirements applicable to the installation. Derivative factors also apply to conductors installed in underground conduits or direct burial applications. The NEC provides specific guidelines for derivative conductors in these applications based on the soil thermal resistivity and the depth of burial. When conductors are installed in cable trays, the derivative requirements depend on whether the cable tray is covered or uncovered and the spacing between the cables. The NEC provides detailed guidelines for derivative conductors and cable trays. The ampacity of conductors must be protected by overcurrent protection devices, such as circuit breakers or fuses. The overcurrent protection device must be sized to protect the conductor's derivative ampacity. It's essential to ensure that the overcurrent protection device is properly sized to prevent overloading and overheating of the conductors. Proper derivative of conductors is essential for ensuring the safety and reliability of electrical installations. Failure to apply derivative factors can lead to overheating of conductors, insulation breakdown, and potentially electrical fires. Always consult the NEC and qualified professionals to ensure that conductors are properly derivated and protected. When calculating conduit fill, it is crucial to include equipment grounding conductors. Equipment grounding conductors, or EGs, are used to provide a low impedance path for fault current to return to the source, thereby tripping the overcurrent protection device and clearing the fault. While EGC do not carry current under normal operating conditions, they do occupy space within the conduit and must be considered when calculating conduit fill. The NEC requires that EGC be included in conduit fill calculations to ensure that the conduit is not overfilled, which could lead to overheating of conductors and difficulty in pulling wires. The size of the EGC is determined by NEC Table 250.122, which is based on the size of the overcurrent protection device protecting the circuit. The EGC must be sized to safely carry the available fault current and to ensure that the overcurrent protection device will trip quickly in the event of a ground fault. When calculating conduit fill with the EGC, the cross-sectional area of the EGC must be included in the total area of conductors in the conduit. The cross-sectional area of the EGC can be found in NEC Chapter 9, Table 5. The NEC provides examples of how to calculate conduit fill with EGC in Annex C. These examples illustrate how to determine the correct conduit size based on the number and size of conductors, including the EGC. It's important to note that the NEC allows for the use of a single EGC to serve multiple circuits in the same conduit, provided that the EGC is sized to accommodate the largest overcurrent protection device protecting any of the circuits. When using a single EGC for multiple circuits, the cross-sectional area of the EGC must still be included in the conduit fill calculation. In some cases, the EGC may be a bare conductor, such as a bare copper wire. In other cases, the EGC may be an insulated conductor, such as a green insulated wire. Regardless of whether the EGC is bare or insulated, its cross-sectional area must be included in the conduit fill calculation. It's also important to note that the NEC requires that EGC be installed in the same raceway or cable as the circuit conductors. This ensures that the EGC is readily available to provide a low impedance path for fault current to return to the source. Failure to include EGC in conduit fill calculations can result in an undersized conduit, which can lead to overheating of conductors, difficulty in pulling wires, and potentially electrical hazards. Always consult the NEC and qualified professionals to ensure that EGC are properly sized and installed and that conduit fill calculations are accurate. In summary, the calculation process involves determining the cross-sectional area of the wires, including the equipment grounding conductor if present, consulting the NEC tables for the internal area of the conduit, applying the fill percentage limit based on the number of wires, and ensuring the total area of the wires does not exceed the allowable fill area of the conduit. This process ensures a safe and code-compliant electrical installation.